So here is the sitch on the ATL Box Score. First of all, we close out the college football season, sadly, for 2018, and who better to do that than Bill Bender? We have him on our show, talking college ball and transfers and national championship. Then, since it's such a big NFL weekend, we thought we'd bring back Ab Stanley from the 3-point conversion to talk AFC, NFC championship, and we have a really fun conversation with Ab about those two games. This is the ATL Box Score podcast, and you're listening to Football Friday. Now, you guys might be wondering, how does a podcast that just recently started, what do I use for recording space? Well, I actually use a place called Spaces, and I go to the center that's Spaces Midtown East, and I use their resources that they have here to create my podcast and to put it out there to the world and to do other business-related things, and it's pretty much my home base to grow my business and my product that I'm developing for you guys. And if you want to check it out, I have Steve Choi with me, who is one of the regional managers who manages a lot of different centers, also with Spaces and the Regis brand, to tell you more about Spaces Midtown East.
Hey, thanks, Alex, for inviting me on the show. We love having you as well as ATL Box Score with us here at Spaces. I want to invite anybody, all your listeners, to come in and take a test drive. Let us know that Alex sent you. We'll give you a free 5-day test drive to Spaces, which is a hybrid, collaborative, and private workspace location. We're all over the world, particularly here in Atlanta. We have 5 locations, and we'll be opening 2 more soon here. So I am the area manager. Come on in. We offer private offices as well as 8,000 square feet of collaborative space for our members to come in and check it and just be productive. So again, come on in. Let us know that Alex sent you and the ATL Box Score, and we'll go ahead and set you up for 5 days free.
Well, thank you, Steve. Definitely appreciate you. Definitely appreciate your friendly staff for helping me out and giving me all the resources I need to be successful. If you want to know more about Spaces Midtown, they are just a block north from the Fox Theater. I know all you guys know where the Fox Theater is. They're just a block north from the Fox Theater, and I'm going to put the website in the show description, so you have no excuses if you're like me, trying to start your own business or your own brand. Check out Spaces Midtown East. Well, we are back, and it is the best day of the work week, and that's Friday. Because guess what? You don't have to go to work tomorrow. If you're listening on a Friday or Saturday, you got a weekend, and especially since it's going to be MLK weekend, you got a long weekend at that. So, hope you guys enjoy your 3-day weekend. Finally here. So yeah. A lot of moving pieces, especially right now in football, and that's why we're having Football Friday. That's what we do every Friday. Even if the sports climate is a little bit different, or we do it year round, no matter what. no matter what the sports climate looks like. But with that being said, at the University of Georgia, if you're a recruit right now, that number 8, if you want the number 8 on your jersey, well, it's pretty much up for free grabs because you have Riley Ridley going to the NFL. You also have D'Angelo Gibbs transferring to Tennessee, which is a little surprising, but not that surprising. He was a highly recruited recruit that Georgia was looking at, and Georgia was really wanted to get him really hard, and they did. And unfortunately, he didn't pan out the way that they thought he was going to. I remember actually seeing him play in high school. I saw him playing a state championship, tore it up. But now he's going to play wide receiver with the Vols, so best of luck to him. Hopefully he can, be a good position guy over there. Tech, on the other hand, they hire Kerry Dixon as their wide receivers coach. And yes, at Tech, they're actually going to use their wide receivers, unlike the past couple of years. I'm surprised Bebe Thomas got drafted and is doing as well as he did in the NFL, because you really didn't see pass catching ability that much for him. I think he did enough, obviously, to get drafted, but he's had a better career with the Broncos than he had with Tech. So Tech's going to want to line up in a lot of 4-wide sets and everything. So that should be fun to see. And I know this weekend, too, is Chop Fest over at the Battery, which I'm glad the Atlanta Braves are doing this. I mean, it's really fun. You should check it out this weekend. But unfortunately, I'm not going to be there. I was kind of planning on it, but the weather, it just doesn't seem to cooperate, and that usually limits what you can do there, because they do open the stadium, and they don't just open it. You can actually go on the field. Like, raise your hand right now if you've been on a Major League Baseball field. I'll put it this way: no hands are raised in the room in the room that I am in right now. So that's a good opportunity too. But since it just depends on the weather if they're gonna have that field open. But if they do, got to take advantage of it. Gotta go. It's so surprising how close we're getting to baseball season. I know pitchers and catchers report after 4th of July, not after 4th of July, after Valentine's Day. I don't know where my mind is going with that. After 4th of July, after Valentine's Day, which, fellas, you need to take care of your woman. If you have a woman, I'm just saying. Valentine's Day's around the corner. Gotta start making plans now, guys. Because you don't want to disappoint your spouse or your girlfriend or your girl or your shouty, whatever you call it. Don't want to disappoint. I'm just saying, guys. So, with that being said, kind of going through the major stuff, that obviously the Hawks are doing what the Hawks are doing, and Falcons are trying to make strides in the postseason. But I know right now, if you are a Atlantan or you're a Hawks supporter, or you're like me, you love this region, you love this town, you love what it brings. But the thing you don't want, since we're hosting the Super Bowl, the thing that we just don't want, unfortunately, we don't want those Saints here in this city, because it would just be a big spit in the face and everything like that. Yeah, I get it that we couldn't control our own destiny when it came to that stuff, but still, New Orleans is going to go all out, and they'll just love to invade the city. They like coming here. A lot of people that live out in yeah, out in the back areas of the Southeast, I'll just put it that way, love coming to the city. And I don't blame them. Who could? But let's all put on our Todd Gurley jerseys this weekend and pray to the Rams God that he will come through for the Rams. So that way we could see the Rams here instead of... oh, my gosh. Yeah, oh, my gosh. If it is Patriots Saints for the Super Bowl, it's going to be haters are us around here. Oh, that's like the worst. I think the Patriots would be a little bit more decent. So, at the same time, let's all root for the Chiefs, which I think majority of America is doing. So, you got to root for the Rams and the Chiefs, unless you're of a different persuasion. Some people that live in the city, they are Patriots fans, like my brother, for example. So, big weekend in the NFL, and we're going to have App Stanley to break it all down. But first, I want to get into, by the way, too, in case you're wondering, this is the ATL Box Score podcast with Alex Berger. And in case you're wondering, I am Alex Berger. Glad that you could be on the show today, listening to the show. Definitely appreciate you guys tuning in. And this is Atlanta's newest sports podcast. And we appreciate you guys checking us out, especially if you want to break from sports talk radio. I feel like we can give you a little bit different flavor than sports talk radio. But I just want to so now we're going to get into Mark Schlabach's way too early top 25. And he usually comes out with this right after the national championship, and this has been out actually for a week or so, for about a week or so. But I just thought we'd get right into it and see who he's got at number one, and obviously it's Clemson. Usually if you win a national championship, you still have a lot of youth on that team. You usually end up in that number one spot. And Clemson, I look at it right now, they're not really losing a lot. They're losing like wide receiver Hunter Renfrow. They have a lot of talented wide receivers already. They're losing Austin Bryant, one of their defensive end on the line. So not really losing too much right there with Clemson. Obviously, Alabama's number one, and Alabama's not losing any. So they might be, if this is it, they might be the two teams that are hard to stop going into this next season. Georgia's at number 3, and they lost a lot with DeAndre Baker, Jonathan Ledbetter, DeAndre Walker, Jalvin Taylor, Lamont Gilliard, Terry Godwin, Elijah Holyfield, Malcolm. Why am I struggling with his name? Malcolm Hardman, Riley Ridley, Isaac Nada. So that's a lot of talent, and that was the talent that was supposed to get you back to the national championship. Mecole Hardman. The way that it was written here and the way it's pronounced was totally different. So I think people could hopefully you can understand, forgive my dyslexia right there, but oh my gosh, yeah. Now I'm saying Mecole Hardman. But moving on, you have Ohio State. Ohio State's losing a lot at number 4. Notre Dame's at number 5. Oklahoma's at number 6. Florida, in my opinion, shouldn't be at number 7. That's where I kind of disagree with Mark on this. I feel like this should be a decent year for the Gators, but it's kind of one of these things with the Gators. I'm honestly, until I see that there's been growth and development, which I get that Dan Mullen was in his first year, and he accomplished a lot for a first-year coach getting to a New Year's Six Bowl, but I'm not going to be that high on the Gators right now. I think 7's a little generous. I feel like Texas probably should be a little bit higher. I think Texas should be in that 7th spot, but they have him at 8. Texas A&M is at 9. That's a huge leap for Texas A&M. I do feel like Texas A&M is going to be legit. I feel like they're going to be in position to challenge Bama this year now that they've got all their growing pains. And they are losing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They're like losing 8 guys. But I still feel that Texas A&M and Jimbo is going to be really good. I could see why Michigan is at 11 on this list because of the way they got destroyed by Florida in the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl, excuse me. And also too, I could see Mark Schlabach not really being super high on Michigan because they lost to Ohio State, which was kind of supposed to be a gimme. Or he has Oregon at 12. I feel like Oregon might surprise some people this year. And same with Washington State. I feel like you could either flip-flop Washington or Oregon, depending on how you want to fill out your thing. UCF is at 14. I'd probably put them at 12-ish. If they put together a competitive schedule this year, I think you could see them in the playoffs. Kind of cross your fingers, though. Syracuse is interesting. I think Syracuse is probably at the right place at 15. Washington's at 16. I think Washington's going to be a team that's going to surprise some people. I'm surprised he has them that low. Same with Penn State. Penn State is losing a lot, so they might be a middle of the road team in the Big Ten. And Northwestern is at 19. Northwestern's always, I feel like now, is always going to be that wild card. And there's not really anyone significant so far in the top 20, except Missouri's at 22. I feel like Missouri's probably in a good place, or this is probably a good place for Missouri losing Drew Lock. And usually when you have that, you're going to lose most of your offense, but at the same time, they gain Brian Kelly. So, Kelly Bryant. That's my dyslexia playing tricks on me again. Kelly Bryant. So, they should... Auburn, wow. Auburn's stock has dropped tremendously in the past year. Schlabach has the Tigers at 23. I guess maybe 2. You see you lose Jarrett Stidham. You're in a little bit of quarterback competition. Auburn's underachieved on where they're supposed to be. And this usually happens with Auburn. So this could possibly be the year that Gus Malzahn, they either move on with Gus Malzahn or they see something that we're not seeing with Gus, unless he wins the SEC West or something like that. You have Nebraska at 24. I feel like that's probably generous because it's Nebraska. And because of the potential of Scott Frost being there, I feel like Nebraska is probably going to take control either this year or next year. And you have Army at number 25, which I'm not really going to argue with Army being at 25. They had a really good season this past year, and who knows what can happen, but it is tough being a service academy and the cards you dealt with that. Well, that was Mark Schlabach's top 25. And now, to break down college football even more, we have Mr. Bill Bender from sportingnews.com that's going to join us, and we get his thoughts and opinions about the season. Now we just want to welcome back to the ATL Box Score podcast one of our original guests that we had on our first episode, Mr. Bill Bender, and we're going to have him on to wrap up the year in 2018 college football season. So, Bill, how are you doing today, man?
Hey, I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on, as always.
No problem. Is it snowing up there in Ohio yet?
Oh, of course. Yeah, we've been getting that all week, and supposed to get more this weekend. So hopefully this Arctic blast that people are talking about holds off. But, that's part of the off season. We're used to that up here.
Right. Well, let me ask you this. In one word, how would you describe the 2018 college football season?
According to script, I would say, until the end. I mean, Alabama and Clemson were kind of the teams that we thought would be at the end of the road. And then, Clemson obviously with a fantastic performance at the end of the year. There were people that picked them to win, but there aren't too many. If somebody says, I had Clemson in a blowout, they're lying because nobody thought that they were going to beat Alabama 44-16. I think high-level quarterback play from whether it was Trevor Lawrence, Tua Tagovailoa, Dwayne Haskins, and several others. That's the way the game is, though. You got to have a quarterback, and that's why you're seeing this just wild cycle of transfers going on now.
Yeah, since that's the hot topic now, what are your thoughts on this free agency thing that's going on in college football now?
Yeah, it's been wild. I mean, but it's player friendly, and that's the important thing. I think, players should have opportunities to play where they want, and there's only one ball. It's most visible at the quarterback position because they can't really, it's not like a linebacker where you can rotate in with the twos or the ones or however. But rather it was Jalen Hurts, Tate Martell, Austin Kendall, Brandon Wimbush, they're all over. I think that it's been handled mostly well. The Justin Fields, Tate Martell switch at Ohio State's been very interesting because that's kind of how it's going to go when you have 2, 4, or 5-star guys that want to play, and one's coming, one's going, and eventually I think Justin Fields and Tate Martell will both get their chance to start, and it'll work out for the best.
Now, just since you're a little bit close to Ohio State than we are, what kind of quarterback is Tate Martell, and do you think that he will get the starting job at Miami?
It depends on when he's available to play. I think, he'll eventually start for them at some point, but I mean, if it depends on the waiver. Depends on whether or not he gets that transfer waiver. If he's able to play right away, I think in another year we'll find out. I mean, in a couple of months we'll find out. But yeah, I think he's capable. I mean, he's a playmaker that we just haven't been able to see a lot of. So, but I can tell you just from our side of it, he's very popular. His stories about Tate Martell always do well. He's got a very viral presence dating back to his days on that QB1 show on Netflix, and he was pretty good quote here at Ohio State. So yeah, I think we haven't heard the last of him by any stretch, and he'll certainly be popular as we continue to monitor his career.
Gotcha. Now, with Ohio State, with Ryan Day being the head coach now at Ohio State, I'm just wondering, with a program like that, and they went with assistant coach under Urban Meyer, is this going to be just a year where you figure out how good he could be as a head coach, or do you think that they're just kind of holding that position open and this is kind of like his intern or tryout season?
I don't think they're holding it open at all. I mean, this is Ohio State. They have to make good hires, and the fact that there wasn't a coaching search that I'm old enough to remember, when Earl Bruce left and when John Cooper left, and how wide cast the net was when John Cooper left to get Jim Tressel. And at the time, people were wondering, who in the world is Jim Tressel? How did Ohio State hire him? I think in this case, that shows a tremendous amount of confidence in Ryan Day and what he did as an offensive mind. And he's been very aggressive in his first month and change on the job, whether it's with coaching moves, hiring guys from Michigan, being very integral in the fact that Justin Fields wants to go there and play for him is huge. So, yeah, I think this was a big move for them. And some people are questioning, why wasn't there a coaching search? And that's because Urban Meyer and Gene Smith have a tremendous amount of faith in what Ryan Day can do. And to your point, yeah, I mean, still kind of a tryout in the sense that he is a first-time head coach, and this is one of the top 5 jobs in college football. So the standards aren't going to change, even though the name on the head coaching door does.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, because like you said, it's Ohio State, and usually they'll get the up-and-coming coach or established head coach. That's been their track history, yeah.
Yeah, and like I said, this is a job where they don't change jobs often, and it's because the guys that have been the head coach dating back to Woody Hayes, fantastic Hall of Fame coach, Earl Bruce, did a nice job there. That was probably the one period where Ohio State maybe wasn't national championship contender every single season. I mean, even under John Cooper, they just couldn't beat Michigan. They couldn't win their bowl games. Well, for the last 17, 18 years, they've beat Michigan with Jim Tressel, with Urban Meyer. They've set a high standard. I believe it's 15-3 or 16-3 since the turn of the century against Michigan. I mean, these are things that it's a big deal, and that'll be the standard Ryan Day will be held up to. I mean, that's one that's going to be hard to meet is Urban Meyer was 7-0 against Michigan, and that's kind of where this job starts.
Right. Now, since you were a part of since you covered the national championship like you usually do, what were your expectations going into that game? Were you thinking it was going to be like a repeat that we saw in 2016 and 2017?
No, I mean, the quarterbacks is what kind of spiced that up, and I think the fact that Clemson was able to get a pick six early really flipped the momentum, and then from there, they were aggressive with their play calling. I mean, the big story of that game was Trevor Lawrence on third down, going 8 of 11, 240 yards. That was it. They couldn't get off the field on third down, and Trevor Lawrence couldn't have been better on third down with that group of receivers. And I said afterward, and I've been fortunate enough to, in the last few years on the beat for us, I've been able to see Baker, Jameis, Lamar, Mariota, I mean, pretty much all the good ones at the college level that were going to go on and be first-round picks or whatever. And Trevor Lawrence is better than all of them. All of them. And it's not – and I don't – I know Baker, Winston, don't care. I mean, Baker's the one that he'll have to develop, because I think Baker's going to have the best NFL career of these guys that I'm talking about. But, yeah, he's that good.
Yeah, and it really showed up that day, because it was one of those things, too, with Clemson. You think, a team from the ACC, yeah, it was impressive what they did against Notre Dame, but would they dominate Alabama like they did? A lot of people thought it was going to be a close game.
Well, they're not an ACC team. They're
right. They're at a different level. I totally agree with you on that.
Yeah, you can't treat them as an ACC team, because they've dominated that conference. They're very much like Florida State was in the 90s, where Florida State wasn't necessarily an ACC team. They were a national championship team capable of winning that every year. And that's That's the thing. And I think, as you continue to watch them, that's how it is. They've got recruiting. We'll see how they replace some guys on defense, but I think they will. And we'll go from there. But I think certainly Clemson's going to be in the national championship hunt for the foreseeable future, at least the next 2 years while Trevor Lawrence is quarterback. And as they've proved beyond that, I mean, they've gone from – it's a program that, like, people always question, okay, this is going to be the end. And they did that when Taj Boyd left, and then they get Deshaun Watson. They do that when Deshaun Watson leaves, and it takes a year, but, they get Trevor Lawrence. So, I mean, Dabo knows what he's doing, and it's not an accident that they're this good.
Right. My opinion is that they actually get a lot of kids out of Georgia and the Atlanta metro area, because a lot of kids are attracted actually to going to Clemson. It becomes an attractive place because it's not that far. It's like going to Athens.
Yeah, I mean, it's right there. It's a good location, and they send guys to the NFL. And,
exactly.
I know the fans get caught up in it's the tradition, it's this, it's that. No, it's they send kids to the NFL. That's the lead draw of these kids, and they get kids ready. I mean, Clemson does a good job of selling, life after football. Alabama's doing a much better job of that. They're setting up kids for success, and that's what it should be about. So, if you can set up a kid for success after football, and oh, by the way, while you're here, you'll probably play for a national championship, and we'll get, if you're good enough, you're going to play in the NFL. Pretty easy sell to go to these big-time schools.
Mm-hmm. Now, what was the most intriguing bowl to you during the bowl season?
I thought Texas's win was huge because it gets them in that conversation for next year where, I know Georgia, we can question their motivation all you want. When you run through that exercise, the bottom line is they got beat. They got beat, and they got out-physicaled, and they were down 17-0 before they knew what happened. So I think when you talk about who's going to break up Alabama-Clemson, is it going to be Alabama-Clemson 5, or will Ohio State break that up? Will Georgia break that up? And I think Texas is a school that is going to get in the conversation as well now because they've played pretty well. Tom Herman's got another recruiting cycle under his belt. They'll be expected to be on that plane. Alex, I don't know if they are ready, but we're going to find out if they are.
Right, absolutely. It's funny. I remember you were going pretty. You saw you were pretty favorable with Texas, and they lost to Maryland. But then it's like they turned it on at the end of the season. Granted, losing that Big 12 championship game, but I do agree with you. I think they're a team that you need to look out for in the future.
Yeah, I mean, we'll find out. They play LSU early next year, so that'll be a good measuring stick game for them, for that program. And but yeah, I think it really is hard to find somebody other than Ohio State and Georgia that could seriously threaten Alabama and Clemson, and part of that is because of the recruiting stockpile. I mean, Kirby's doing that at Georgia. Ohio State has that. They just, they've got to take care of business in some games they've lost. And then everybody else becomes that list of teams like LSU and Texas and Michigan and Oklahoma on some level and Notre Dame on some level that, yeah, you got there. I think Oklahoma's another interesting case because with Jalen Hurts, I think they're going to be fine. Lincoln Riley's an awesome play caller, but the big thing for them this offseason is what Alex Grinch is going to do with that defense. How are they going to develop a championship defense? They've got the offensive part figured out, but as they found out against Alabama, you got to have a defense that can stop somebody so you don't fall into a 28-0 hole.
Right. Well, you had to mention that Texas game. You just had to mention it. But we're closing out here. This is probably one of the best NFL matchup weekends that is going on. And I saw you write some NFL articles and have your opinions on some NFL stuff. So what are your impressions of this weekend?
Oh, I mean, we're going to get a good Super Bowl no matter what. I mean, whether you're kind of the old guard with Brady and Breeze who have been doing it for so long. I mean, Tom Brady and Drew Brees played in college for the first time in 1999, and they've been doing it for 20 years. And then there's the new age guys like Goff and Mahomes and these offenses that are scoring tons of points, and some people are going to want to see that. So I think, but I would just, like I see it, no matter which one of those four combinations we get, we're going to get a very good Super Bowl. And that's why I'm excited, because I think, whether it's whatever team it is that we get, and I know some people have Patriots fatigue, but I don't. I think it's fine watching Tom Brady play, and we'll see what comes of it. I do think it's going to be Chiefs and Saints. I know that's taking the home teams, but I think both of those places are distinct home field advantages, and it's kind of like college. I mean, when you go down to New Orleans, it's like playing at LSU. When you play at Kansas City, it's like playing at a Nebraska or an Oklahoma. It's tough to win there.
Right, absolutely. I know a lot of people aren't rooting for the Saints to, down here at least, aren't rooting for the Saints to be here in Atlanta. Yeah. So, well, thanks for your time, Bill. Thanks for your time. Where can we reach you on social media?
Yeah, I'm at Bill Bender 92 at Sporting News, and you can find all our work there. We'll have Vinny Iyer, our NFL guy, will be down in Atlanta here in a week, to get ready for the Super Bowl, and it'll be fun, man. I'm looking forward to it, and as always, it's good to come on your show and talk some college football and a little bit of NFL in between. Oh,
it's always good to have you. When are you going to release your next Angry Bender?
Yeah, we'll probably do some of that in the off season, I'm sure.
Okay.
But,
okay.
Yeah, I'll let you know, and I appreciate it.
No problem. It looks like today we got the smooth, mild Bender. So.
Well, it's the off season. I don't have too much to be angry about. I enjoy it.
Well, good. Thanks for being on the show today, Bill.
Hey, no problem. Thank you.
All right. That was interesting that Bill said that this year college football would stick to the script until the end, which that pretty much sums it up. So right now, since it's a lot of NFL action going on this weekend with the two big games, with the Pats versus the Chiefs and the Saints versus the Rams, we have my man, Ab Stanley, to break it down all for us. Here's my conversation with Ab Stanley. Now we just want to welcome back to the ATL Box Score podcast, and this is his second Football Friday in a row that we have him on. It's just too big of an NFL weekend to not have Mr. Ab Stanley on the ATL Box Score podcast. And Ab, how are you doing today, man?
I'm doing great, Alex. How about yourself?
I'm great. Interested to see how this weekend's going to shake out in the NFL, especially on Sunday. It's I'm fixing to watch both those games. So
yeah, well, I mean, whenever you get down to championship weekend, the last four teams in the NFL, it just seems like, all the cliches come to light. The cream of the crop rises to the top, and defense wins championships, and it's the NFL, and it's this and that and everything. It seems like every cliche you could find, the old guard versus the young new guy, the changing of the passing of the torch and all of that rhetoric. It's championship weekend, and you got big-time teams and big-time players. You really got four big-time head coaches, which I don't know if you could say that in years past, but, I mean, these guys are some of the best ever, and like probably some of the best right now, contemporary. So I mean, it's a lot of fun when you get to the last four teams.
Well, you got the old timers club of guys that have been there, done that with Belichick, Andy Reid, and Sean Payton, and then. Then the Rams guy, he's kind of new to this club.
Right. Sean McVay is the young hotshot, and much like his Ram team, the quarterback, the running back, some of the wide receivers, and these are young hot shots in the NFL. If you look at Sean McVay, obviously this is his first trip to the title games round, and he's trying to get to the Super Bowl. The Rams have been back in LA all the 2 seasons, and they're trying to be in the Super Bowl, putting LA back at the top of the football stratosphere. And Sean McVay was handpicked to do this. He wasn't picked to let's just turn it around and maybe he'll win some games. He was picked to win a Super Bowl. So the hierarchy there in LA, they're like, listen, we're bringing the team back. I know there's another team there in the Chargers, but the Rams were trying to build a team to win the Super Bowl, and they drafted Todd Gurley, and they pick up big free agents like Sue, and they wanted to be just Hollywood like all the other teams in LA. They wanted to be like the Dodgers, to be like the Lakers, to a lesser extent, the Clippers when it was Lob City. They want to be exciting and fun, but most importantly, they want to win. And McVay is the new hotshot.
Yeah, you went right into what I was going to start with. I was going to start, since they're the first game, that I was going to start off with the Saints and Rams. And I saw this morning on Get Up, because I usually watch that show just to kind of get a drive-by of what's going on in the national sports scene. And Sean McVay got pretty snippy with a reporter. Do you feel like they have right now this us against the world mentality going on there with the Rams?
I can't say that I've heard too much of that, as opposed to the other side in the AFC. I guess we'll get to that later, but I haven't heard too much of that come from the Rams. You see, the Rams, again, it's a young, vibrant head coach. It's a lot of young players, and it's some veterans who want to prove that their careers aren't over. So I don't know if it's us against the world, but I mean, I wrote a power rankings of the championship team for the threepointconversion.com. You can check it out. And I do have the Rams as 4th ranked team of the teams. And the way I ranked the teams was I went from the team most likely to win the Super Bowl to the team least likely to win the Super Bowl. And it's very contradictory because you'll read my preview of the NFC title game on the same threepointconversion.com, and I am picking the Rams. And the reason being is this. These guys have nothing to lose. You understand? There's no legacy that's being built. They have nothing to lose. I mean, even they're veterans. There's no, well, this guy has to win a championship right now, else he's never going to get in the Hall of Fame. They have a fairly young team.
Right, they do.
And right now they're carving out a legacy for themselves. So even if they don't win it this year, guys like Gurley and McMahon, I know it's easy to say they'll get back to a Super Bowl, but realistically, this team does have a shot next year, the year after that, to still be in the mix of contenders. So I don't want to say that the time is not pressing, and obviously if you're right there at the NFC title game, you want to go ahead and win that and get to the Super Bowl. But out of all 4 of the teams, they have the least amount to lose if they lose this game. If you look at all the other teams, there's something pointing at that team. It's like, wow, they might want to win this now. And the Rams don't have that. So they could play free and loose. And that's how they played in the divisional round, and that's how I expected to play on Sunday.
Now, having the backfield that the Rams do in an era of in the NFL where your quarterback is your ride or die guy with, and it's backyard football, just throw it to who's ever open. But they've went back to that old school mentality that Todd Gurley is our prized horse, and we're gonna feed him the ball as many times as we can. And you saw against Dallas that he would just shoot into the secondary. I mean, it reminded me of performances that Todd Gurley had against Tennessee and Auburn back when he was at Georgia.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Gurley is a generational back, and there was no hesitation in the Rams when he was available in that draft because these are the type of games you expect. I mean, the only thing you looked at was Gurley healthy. You know, they get C.J. Anderson off the scrap heap, and he reverts back to his old ways of just busting up front lines and softening them up and just getting hard yardage. And then Gurley is just the total package, man. And that's what I think. And you said the Rams have reverted back to the old way. Well, you know, a lot of these four teams right here, for the most part, have run the football very well. At least three of them have run the football very well, and they'll use the run to set up their offense. And I don't think the Rams right now, how the playoffs and how, you know, the end of the regular season has gone, I don't think the Rams are doing anything outside the realm of what the rest of the NFL is doing. And it's been a big misnomer for years that the running back position is this and it's that, and teams are moving to the passing game, and it's almost a crock. Yeah, teams are passing a lot. We understand that. But there's so much up-tempo, there's so much at the line of scrimmage, let's go plays that you can pass a lot and still run the football predominantly to set up your pass. And as you saw at the end of the season where defenses started catching up to the pitch and shoot and let's throw it deep, and teams had to revert back to the run game. If you looked at a lot of the teams that made the playoffs overall, they were running the football to get to the playoffs. So what the Rams are doing right now is they just have the luxury of now having two running backs that can carry the load. And now you can give the ball to C.J. Anderson in the backfield. You can give it to Gurley in the backfield. You can throw it to Gurley. You know, both of those running backs will be able to be fresh, and I think that will pose a problem for the Saints.
So you don't think with C.J. Anderson and Todd Gurley, do you think that they could knife through New Orleans' defensive line like you saw them do it against Dallas?
Well, I mean, they ran for something like, they ran for over 200 yards combined, almost 300 yards combined, if I'm not mistaken. I'm trying to remember what it was exactly. It was close to 300 yards combined. And we're not looking for that type of performance because, again, if you're getting now to the top of the league at the last four teams, the competition is going to be stiffer. Now, I'm not saying New Orleans has a better defense than Dallas. They might very well do. But the Rams are going to go with their game plan, and they want to keep the heat off of their young quarterback. And everybody's so worried about Goff and what he can do, and he's obviously he would be the fourth-rated quarterback if you took all four quarterbacks. That's no knock against him. There's just three other really good quarterbacks to great quarterbacks in the playoffs. So, the Rams will run the football, and they shouldn't shy away from running the football if they get stopped once or twice, because the Saints defense is very, I don't want to say enigmatic. It's come on the last 7-8 weeks of the season in the playoff game, but they just don't have a defense that's, I'm scared to play them, especially up front. Like, if you want to just put your hard hat on and move some guys around, I don't see why the Rams can't be able to do that against the Saints. Now, maybe against their secondary, it might be a little tough. But up front, I don't see why they should be able to move some guys around and give Gurley and C.J. Anderson some holes.
Now, to be fair, and I feel like we should just put this on the table right now, since we both live here in Atlanta, and we know the sports climate, we know that we're hosting the Super Bowl. You know the vibe around the city right now, and I can feel it, and I know you can feel it too, is that everybody that loves Atlanta, loves living in this city, loves the Falcons, or is fair-weather Falcons fans, you're rooting hard for the Rams, so that way you don't have to have those people, I'm just going to put it that way, you don't have to have those people try to invade this state.
Right. And, I don't hold any allegiance to the Falcons. I'm not, born Atlantean, but you'd be a fool to not feel the vibe of, we don't want the Saints in the city. And I would just tell a Falcons fan this: they're in your division. You had your chances. You could have been the team representing the NFC South in the playoffs. You could have been the team representing the NFC,
or at least try to ruin their season.
Right. You understand? So the Saints have done what they needed to do, and if they win on Sunday, they would have, again, done what they needed to do to be here. So, I mean, if the Saints win, and the Patriots win, a team that's beaten the Falcons in the Super Bowl recently, and it's Saints versus Patriots, I mean, the Falcons fans are going to be really pissed off, but I guess that's
right,
tough.
Right. We could talk about this for forever, but we need to move on here.
Right.
The matchup that if you're a Rams fan,
Right.
and if I think too, even if you're a Saints fan, you have to be concerned about your running backs like Kamara going up against
Right.
a Dominican Sue. Like, how do you feel like that New Orleans offense with Drew Brees? And by the way, too, it's like a lot of people thought in New Orleans that Drew Brees' career was pretty much over, that he was just on cruise control and just having fun playing football until he retired. But he proved this year that he's pretty serious. But with that, how do you see this New Orleans offense, going against the Rams defense?
Well, I mean, it shouldn't be a problem that Sean Payton devises plans against any defense, and they're going to go in with their game plan and try to run it. But they've got to try to run the football. They can't abandon the run altogether. They lost 3 games this season, and the last game of the season they didn't play their starters, so we won't look at that game. But the other 2 games, they were pretty much pass, and no run. If they didn't try to run, they definitely didn't get the production. So they're definitely going to try to establish a run game, and they too have the luxury of 2 running backs, that they can wheel out and play against any team that they're going to go up against. But the problem with running is people abandon it too quick. So if, like you said, Dominican Sue and Aaron Donald, they're up front, and they're stopping you, and maybe you try to pass a little bit more. They should just mix it up. You run to the edges. You get those guys. When you got 2 big guys in the middle like that, you want to get them stretched out. You want to have them running, either trailing the play or in front of the play, going down the line of scrimmage, because that's going to what? That's going to get those guys, not saying that they don't play at a high level and have good stamina, but, it's going to get those guys tired eventually is what I'm telling you. Like, they're not going to be as fresh in the second half if they're going to have to keep running coming with backside help on Kamara. Those guys want to be rushing the passer because it's a straight ahead thing. And, if you get Kamara running to the edges and you get Ingram running off tackle and you get these guys having to flow down the line of scrimmage, that's how you get those guys up front tangled up and in situations where they'll probably be tired. And, of course, you can use Kamara out the backfield as a receiver against the linebackers, and that's also a mismatch. So it's like the Saints only want to keep converting on third down. They want to keep their third downs into first downs, and if they stay out at third and long, then they could keep the Rams' defense on their heels, because you don't know if they're going to run or they're going to pass, especially if Kamara's in the backfield.
Right. That should be a great game. I'm looking forward to seeing. I just wonder how. I hope these games are as good as advertised.
Right.
So let's go over to the Patriots and Chiefs game, which a lot of people, the first time they played, made a big to-do about Mahomes versus Brady, that it was 2 different generational players. And I can see where they're coming from with that. But I look at it that it's like you have one guy who's part of Gen X, and then you have another guy who's pretty much a millennial going at
Right.
it. So. So just from that standpoint, what do you think of this matchup? Because I saw something funny also on social media that they showed a map of America, and
Right.
everyone was going for the Chiefs except for
Chiefs.
New England. So that seems to always be the narrative right now with the Patriots. If you're not a Patriots fan, then
Yeah.
then you usually, I mean, it's kind of like Notre Dame back in the day. If you're not a Notre Dame fan, you're most likely a Notre Dame hater, and that's how it is right now with the New England Patriots.
Notre Dame, Dallas Cowboys, New York Yankees. Take your pick. Alabama football. Make your pick. The Patriots are definitely one of those teams, and why? Because they win. They win, and their coach is very, very short and tight with the media. He's not a fun-loving, laugh-at guy, and their quarterback is married to the model wife and has everything. And
he's blonde, blue eyes, and
right. Their guys are in the Northeast, and they shun down on the rest of the country, and those guys in Boston think they're about, but the truth of the matter is, this can be billed as quarterback versus quarterback all they want. This comes down to coach versus coach. Remember, if you're talking about experience, these are the two most experienced coaches. I don't want to say in the NFL, but probably so when it comes to playoff appearances, Super Bowl appearances of the current coaches. How many guys have been to that many conference title games, as many as 6 as Andy Reid, other than Bill Belichick? Okay, now I know Reid has only broken through once and made it to the Super Bowl once, but he's been in this situation before. So first thing I would say to myself is Andy Reid knows what not to do in this situation. I think this time he has the roster that he wants, and he's going to know what not to do. Much like Bill Belichick, who probably also knows exactly what to do, in the situation. Not just what not to do, but exactly what to do to win. And it's going to be a tough matchup for Andy Reid, but there's a lot of things floating in the favor of the Kansas City Chiefs. And the obvious first thing is they're playing at home. They played earlier in the season, and you can see that Mahomes was clearly a little rattled by the aura of Foxborough, et cetera. And, he threw a couple picks in that game. But he still threw, 3-4 touchdowns? Like, he was still awesome at the end of the game, and the Chiefs still had a chance to win. And that was in Foxborough. So even if they had to go back to Foxborough again, there's no jitters in Mahomes this time. He's going to be ready to play. They're going to be at home. He's going to be ready to play. The problem is Bill Belichick will be ready. So it's really up to Andy Reid to put the Chiefs in the right situation. I know coaches are supposed to do that all the time, but I think this game really weighs heavily on the coaches, more so than the NFC title, because these two guys are masters of adjustment. Andy Reid mostly on defense. Andy Reid mostly on offense, and Bill Belichick mostly on defense. So it's almost like, the two opposing wits, the magnet, the negative and the positive magnet, they're going to, it's going to be great to see them match wits, because the teams are just so stacked with talent, and, the Patriots might not have the talent they used to have and the time when they won the Super Bowl in all the places, but they still have got great guys in there, with Brady and Gronkowski and I forget the corner, Gilmore on defense. I mean, these guys that have been through the trenches, have been through the wars, and they play. James White, Edelman, these are household names. And now you got these new Chiefs with Tyreek Hill and Kelsey and Pat Mahomes, But it's going to come down mostly to Andy Reid and Bill Belichick, in my opinion, because the guys on the field are ready to put on a great performance.
Right, absolutely. I feel like what you mentioned that it's going to come down to quarterback to quarterback. Yeah, it will. It'll probably be like that Madden game or that NCAA football game where you and your brother or you and your cousin are like scoring like 40 points, and but at the same time, I feel like the difference in that is going to be who has the most dominant defensive line. I feel like that's going to win the game for whichever team who comes out, because I know the Patriots always have history of having a dominant defensive line and front seven. And also, too, with the Chiefs, you have Justin Houston, who all he does is sack the quarterback.
Mm-hmm. And don't forget Dee Ford. And that's who I looked at when they were playing the Colts last week. Is you got to look at those guys on the edge and remember this. If the Chiefs get a lead and force other teams into passing, then guys who can sack the quarterback, who will require double team, those guys become almost invaluable because you're going to pass. You're going to pass the football to get back in a game. If the Chiefs could jump out to a 7-10 nothing lead, what do you think? The Patriots won't abandon the run altogether, but they will pass, and that's what you want against Tom Brady. You want him in a passing situation so that when the pass rusher guys come off the edge, you can kind of hide what you're doing in the secondary. So it's like if you got Dee Ford and you don't have to send a blitz, then Brady's going to get a blitz he's going to feel like the blitz because he's going to have the pressure coming on him from one side, and that's how you get him into making mistakes. Now, we all know Brady rarely makes mistakes, but in the games that he's lost, it usually comes down to teams being able to put a heavy pass rush on him because he doesn't get fooled much by secondary coverage, if at all. But when you put a heavy pass rush on him and he wants to make the play that he wants to make or make him make a play that he doesn't want to make, it would really help in going a long way. So I think with the Chiefs' offense, if they could somehow generate that pass rush, it'll go a long way into helping them win the game.
Now, obviously, we could talk about Brady all we want, all his accomplishments. Yeah, he pretty much is right now the Michael Jordan of the NFL. But something that I don't feel like a lot of people are talking about. Last week, Sony Michel was New England's ride or die back. Do you feel like he's going to be the same way? Do you feel like he's going to contribute the same way to the Patriots this week?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I his production withstanding, I don't know what he's going to do, but I guarantee you Belichick is going to use him in hopes that he does produce the same way he did because, the NFL, like I said, we said it earlier, the guys want to employ two different running backs if you can. You want one guy that's going to go in between
right, a power guy.
You want another guy. Right, and then you want another guy that's going to be your third down guy who can run, but most likely you're going to put him out in a pass situation.
Right. Your slasher back.
Correct. Or what they used to call it, scat back.
I like slasher better. It sounds more dangerous.
Right, every time I hear scat back, I think about Derrick Rose. But anyway, it's they have James White, and James White will be the primary third down back. But with Sony Michel now, they have an added dynamic. And it's funny, you watch Bill Belichick, and he doesn't draft offensive guys that much in the first round. If it is, it's like a lineman or, it's Gronkowski or, you know what I mean?
He drafts smartly, unlike someone else here. I'll just put it that way.
Right. But when you see him draft a guy like Sony Michel at the end of the first round, you can see that he values his talent more than anything. Because remember, Bill Belichick can find talent. It's surprising that Bill Belichick didn't find a guy like Philip Lindsay after the draft. You know, it's like he always finds those guys, like these backs that come out of nowhere and be able to do it. But you could tell he valued Sony Michel's talent. Him and Nick Saban are friends, and you know, I'm sure he's seen a lot. He's seen a lot of Sony Michel through the years, playing against Alabama in the SEC. And you know, I guess I don't know how his relationship with Georgia head coach
Belichick had a front row seat on Georgia's pro day, so even though he was checking out defensive guys, I mean, you can't help but pay attention to Sony Michel.
There you go. Yeah, you can tell just by where he selected Sony Michel, and he coveted this man's talent. And Michel has produced. You know, Belichick slowly worked him in, and decided, like, you know, this is the guy. I drafted him to be a first-round guy. He can carry the load 20-odd times if he needs to, but he produces yards. And what it is if you watch Sony Michel since college has this kind of bounce to him. Like, you know, he was in a backfield with Nick Chubb, who's also done pretty well as a rookie in the NFL, but he had a little bit more bounce to him. Like, you know, there was like an extra little cut here, an extra broken tackle there. You could just see it in this guy's gear. Like, there's just another level to what Sony Michel could do as a running back to what most running backs can do. And, you know, this is only the tip of the iceberg.
Right,
you
right.
know, win, lose, or draw, you will see a lot of Sony Michel next year for the Patriots. Trust me, because Bill Belichick covets this man's talent. And one thing we know about Belichick, when he has his talented guys, he uses them, and he will use them till he can't use them no more. So I definitely see a lot of Sony Michel, and I think furthermore, the Patriots need to feature Sony Michel more and get that Chiefs defense looking at the run game more than being able to just hone in on Brady.
I have to mention this since it's an ATL, it's an Atlanta podcast, that it's pretty incredible that you have Justin Houston is the lone single player that I can think of from the Georgia Bulldogs that's playing. And then you also have Todd Gurley and Sony Michel both starting. And it's kind of worked in that narrative for Georgia that Georgia's running back and you see it full circle now in the biggest weekend for the NFL, that both of those running backs are going to be on display.
Right. And they could actually be in the Super Bowl playing versus each other, and that would make Georgia fans very happy if both. Yeah, but those two guys, man. I gotta say, Todd Gurley is like a generational talent. He had a major injury to his knee, and people were still ready to like fall over themselves to draft this guy. You just don't find Todd Gurley's on trees. Like, you know, barring any major injury, he'll be in the pantheon of great running backs. Because he's just, I mean, the guy's amazing. You know, I've seen Sony Michel and Nick Chubb up front, but Sony Michel, I'm telling you, I don't know if he's in that Gurley category, but he's like in that next category of this guy can make multiple all-pro teams, multiple Pro Bowls, be on teams that are winning, you know, until that running backs hit 30 and they drop off the bat. But, I mean, until then, like, you got to look for this guy. He has that bounce. That's the only way I can describe it, man. Like, you see him like a guy's gonna tackle him, and then he's still running. Right. Like I don't know. You can't tell if it's like he powered through it or he just like was too elusive. He just has it, man. There's certain guys you just see the talent like permeate out of these guys. A guy like Sony Michel is like oozing with talent, man. He does have that extra bounce, and like I said, Belichick saw it. And that's why I drafted him.
Now, do you think as a 18-year-old kid and you're a talented running back, you got an offer by Georgia, and now you're seeing this weekend, do you highly consider Georgia as a place to go?
Yeah. I don't know if this weekend will push that envelope any more than it has. I think, for years, Georgia's been known for running backs, and I'm new to the city, and I won't act like a Georgia historian. I've only been here for like a little under 10 years now, but I remember back in the day like Herschel Walker, and so when you look at the Georgia running backs recently, like I said with Chubb and Michelle and Gurley a couple of years ago, with the guys coming out now, name escapes me. Holyfield and
Yeah, Holyfield's the only one that came out this time.
Right, Holyfield. These guys are going to see it, and not even just the guys in the NFL, but I mean, Georgia's put together a pretty good program. Not just since Kirby Smart has been on board. They had pretty good teams under Mark Richt too, but since Kirby's been here, they've been to the SEC title games and they've been in a national title game. So those running backs are on display a lot now. And that team, Georgia, is on display a lot now. And they're actually starting to get a target on their back from teams around the country. So it's like the more success that the running backs have while they're playing in college and you can see them on TV, then they go to the NFL and you have a season like a Gurley had or a Sony Michel had, or even, like I said, Nick Chubb for the Browns. It bodes well for the program, definitely.
Last thing before we get you out of here, on your articles that I read, there's always someone predicting. I've noticed that.
Right.
So who you got for these two games, and would you put, for our listeners, would you put money on it to go to Vegas with it?
The whole gambling thing, I don't know. I don't know. Me personally, I just don't have the luck. But I tell you this, I stand by my Rams pick because I just think people are forgetting how much talent the Rams have.
And by the way, that'll be a happier Atlanta if they come here.
Right. Again, no Saints, then you got Gurley coming home. Definitely happy Atlanta. I just think people forget how much talent Atlanta has. You think about Akeem Talib and, like you said, Sue and Aaron Donald, who will most likely be the defensive player of the year. And you got guys like, I want to say, was that Williams they picked up from Jacksonville? Man? Like, these guys have so many guys that you forget about, like a Robert Woods and a Brandon Cooks at wide receiver. Like, do you realize how great that tandem at wide receiver is? And a lot of people are sleeping on Robert Woods, and they didn't really know who he was because the flashy name early in the season was Cooper Kupp, man. And Robert Woods is a handful, man. I don't know that Latimer or Eli Apple or any of those guys can really stick Robert Woods, and they definitely cannot match speed with Brandon Cooks. Now, obviously, you'll devise a game plan, to try to take the top off of Cooks. But, man, Cooks is just a blazing blur down the sideline. And if everything else is working correctly, I don't see how you could double-team both of those guys and keep an eye on Todd Gurley and keep an eye on the running game with C.J. Anderson as well, like, at all the time. And you said you read my article. In my article, my X factor is actually the tight end, Higbee, because he should be open, especially on those 3rd and 6s, 3rd and 7s, those intermediates. He should be open because there's nobody in their right mind is double teaming him. No offense, but with all the talent around on the field, he's got to be one-on-one, and he should be able to beat linebackers and even a safety to a first down spot. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think he's one of the top end tight ends in football, but he's definitely a guy who can catch passes and move the chains, and that's all you're going to want versus the Saints, is to keep that defense on the field and run them into the ground in the 3rd and 4th quarter with Anderson and Gurley. So, I just think people are forgetting how much talent the Rams have. They're putting all the onus on the older QBs, and the Saints they've done great all season. But if the Rams' talent comes to play, they're beating the Saints.
Now, who you got for Patriots and Chiefs?
I really don't want to pick that game, man. My colleague Alan Fields, he wrote the preview, and of course he picked the Patriots because you just can't in your head say it out loud. that you believe with your heart of hearts that the Chiefs are going to beat the Patriots, unless you have some sort of bias, which, like we just went over, everybody who's not in Boston in that area does have a bias. But I'll say this. The Patriots have won games like this where it's hostile and the other team might even have a better overall roster, and Tom Brady and Bill Belichick usually finds a way. But if there was one team, one coach that I think would do it, one quarterback, it's Mahomes and it's Reed and it's the Chiefs. Because if we're being realistic about it, the Chiefs should already have a victory over the Patriots, right? And if you watch the Patriots pass, a lot of the times the Patriots will beat somebody in the regular season, and then they'll lose to them. I remember when the Patriots were undefeated and they beat the Giants that final week of the regular season. The Giants played them so tough. And I mean, everybody in New York, the Giants never made it to the Super Bowl. That's how, the Giants team was kind of iffy. So it was like if they made it to the Super Bowl, they would beat them. But nobody really thought they were going to make it to the Super Bowl until probably after the wild card weekend. And then, I'm starting to after the divisional weekend where they were like, yeah, they're going to the Super Bowl. And then I saw them beat the Patriots. So if you want to take the Chiefs, I don't think you should be afraid. You talk about Vegas. I don't think you should be afraid to put your money on the Chiefs this weekend because I don't see a blowout either way.
Okay. So pretty much what you're saying, not confidently, because you've seen it happen before, you think the Chiefs are going to beat the Patriots. Not confidently, though.
I have more faith that the Rams will go into New Orleans and beat the Saints than I have the Chiefs will beat the Patriots at home. Not saying I don't believe that, but
so you think it's going to be a Ram? Let me just get it straight. You think it's going to be a Rams Patriots Super Bowl?
I think it's going to be a Rams ? Super Bowl.
Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh!
You're not gonna. I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry to you and your fans. You're just not gonna get me to pick that because it's gonna sound biased on my part. Okay. If you say gun to my head, I'm taking the Chiefs by touchdown.
Okay. Unconfidently, because there are going to be some Patriot haters out there. Because they're that one fan base. If if there's a spark, then there's a forest fire. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, I'll take the Chiefs by touchdown. I think the one thing what people are forgetting about the Patriots, and maybe they're not forgetting it, maybe they just don't notice it, is that Brady is making his living throwing the ball underneath. In the past, I've said that, and people have called me a hater. They're saying, "Oh, why are you talking?" I'm watching Brady throw, and he's throwing accurately, and all of that is true. He's throwing 10 to 15 yards. I just want to see somebody challenge him underneath and make him have to throw 25 to 30 yards more than he wants to, because that usually sets up for the pass rush to get to him. I haven't seen a team be able to do it yet. I don't know that the Chiefs have that capability in their linebackers and their safeties, so I don't know if he'll get challenged this week again. But I would just like to see one team challenge him underneath, try to cut off all the James White, all the little underneath element stuff, all the Gronkowski 10 to 15 yard stuff. Bring your guys up and make them throw it deep to whoever, Chris Hogan or whoever he is. Because to me, I just don't see the deep threat on the Patriots, and nobody's exploited that. I guess, I'm not an NFL coach, but
I gotcha.
I just want to see that.
Well, maybe you might get your wish this weekend. Where could we? You're on the 3-point conversion, and
the 3point.com.
And where else can we find you on social media?
Right, you can find me on Facebook. My name is Ab Stanley, A.B. Stanley. You can also find me on Twitter My name is Ab Stanley, also on Twitter, but it's at Trakt, STRAKT _Marino. Right? Yeah, that's been my Twitter name for a long time. And then I'm also on Instagram at Ab Stanley, the 3-point conversion.
All right. Well, thank you, Ab, for joining the show today.
All right, man. Thanks again for having me, Alex. Always a pleasure.
Now, we just want to thank you guys for checking out the ATL Box Score podcast. We want to thank Bill Bender and Ab Stanley for coming on. And we want to thank you guys for listening, especially if you're listening to this part. I'm going to tell you guys right now, too, check out Chop Fest. I know the weather's going to be terrible. I would be there if the weather was a little bit better, but I think I want to go to the gym, and I haven't been in the gym in a while, so I need to get back at the gym thing to make my body look decent for presentation. I'll just put it that way. So with that, we just want's a strong word. We would like to have your help. We need your help. If you like what you heard, if you possibly like me, which I try to be likable, to be honest with you. If you could hit the like button, speaking about being likable, if you could hit the like button wherever you see this podcast on the internet or wherever the like button is, because this podcast is on a lot of different platforms. It's all over social media. So if you could hit that like button, I would appreciate that. Thank you to my sister, Nikki Kelly, for hitting that like button on Facebook for me. So if you want to follow in my sister's lead, I would appreciate it if you could hit that like button, because that actually goes a long way. And if you could hit that for us, I would appreciate that. Also, too, comment in the comment section. We'd love to hear your opinions. We're probably the only place on the internet that probably says that. We want to hear you guys. We want to hear what you're talking about, what you think of the show. Do you want to see Saints fans here? Do you want to see a Saints Patriots Super Bowl? Or who do you think's going to win? If you had money going to Vegas, who you betting on this weekend? Put that all in the comment section, because we'd love to hear from you guys. Also, too, we are on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher. So we're pretty much everywhere where podcasts are. And trying to get on iHeartRadio, trying to check out Podcast One. That was I just got introduced to that the first time this week. So we're we're pretty much everywhere where podcasts are offered. So on there, hit the subscribe button wherever you listen. If you listen on your iPhone or you listen through Google Play, hit the subscribe button, because that helps us out. And especially on iTunes, if you could give us a 5-star review, because that gets the attention going, and 4 stars doesn't cut it. Hopefully we've earned a 5-star review from you, and we appreciate that you are a consistent listener. So be sure to help us out those ways if you can. We would really appreciate it, and we especially appreciate if you're listening to this part of the podcast. So, guys, hope you have a great weekend. Hope you have a great weekend at Chop Fest at the Battery, and we will see you back here either Monday or Tuesday. Still trying to figure that out. The podcast schedule is always very fluent here at the ATL Box Score, but we're trying to put together a consistent product that you can listen to and enjoy, and compete with those sports talk radio people on the radio. So with that, take care of yourselves this weekend. And episode, we were 18 last time, so we are at 19 is